Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott Selections here for Wednesday, October 16th. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick reminder of what we ended up doing yesterday. We ended up giving out a college football game on Saturday between Air Force and Hawaii. So that game's going to be taking place on Saturday. Now, in terms of today's card, unfortunately, since the Yankees and Astros game got postponed for tomorrow, there pretty much is nothing to talk about on today's betting card, as I originally had a play in that game, but I will save that for tomorrow. So instead of that, the only sport left is one college football game between Troy and South Alabama, which I don't see any value in, and some hockey games, which I don't see much value in either. So we will be going back to the well with some college football on Saturday. Sorry for getting tired of the look at stuff, but there really is nothing on today's card due to the baseball game getting postponed. So with that being said, we're actually going to dive right into this one, and we are going to be looking at a matchup between the Army Black Knights and the Georgia State Panthers. Money has poured in on Army so far in this game, as Army opened up at -5 on the road. Now they are up to -6.5, pretty much market wide. However, it is mostly 6.5 with a -110 line. However, FanDuel still has Army at -6.5 and -105, and that will be the line that we are using for that game. So the main reason why we're going to be doing that is based on the fact that I just think there's a lot of value here. I think this line will end up closing at 7. So for that reason, I will be giving that out before any of the key numbers, all the key numbers are gone. Quick question from CR. Yeah, I'm going to give out some leans in the NHL. NBA, I'm not really going to touch because it's preseason, so I won't really give many thoughts into that. NHL, I'll give out my leans, but in terms of play of the day, I did that a couple of days ago for hockey. We ended up winning, but it didn't seem like many people were thrilled with the idea of me giving out hockey plays. So I'm not really sure if I will be doing it in the future. But CR, I will give out my leans for those, so don't worry about that. I'll do that after I give out my play of the day. So play of the day will be Army -6.5, which is available at FanDuel at -105. The main reason why we like this play is due to the fact that Georgia State is absolutely abysmal against the run, and Army is known for its triple option attack on offense. Army is 3-3 on the season. They have not been great whatsoever. They've lost their last two games, one to Tulane, 42-33. I think Tulane's actually pretty good, so they actually hung tough there. They ended up losing on the road at Western Kentucky last week, which was not great, as they ended up only scoring 8 points. However, it's worth mentioning that Western Kentucky was off the bye, so they did have an extra week of preparation. Meanwhile, Georgia State is 4-2, as they were able to beat Coastal Carolina last week on the road 31-21. Coastal Carolina is not a great team at all. Week before that, they ended up beating Arkansas State despite giving up 38 points. If you've looked at Georgia State so far over the course of the season, their defense has been absolutely terrible, as they are giving up over 37 points per game. And let me make sure I got this right. In 4 of their last 5 games, they've given up at least 37.5 points. Definitely not a solid job defensively. But in terms of the actual matchup here, both teams have been pretty solid in terms of time possession. However, Army has done a significantly better job in terms of limiting the opponent in rush yards per attempt, as Army ranks 66th in the nation, giving up 4.3 yards per rush, where at the same point, Georgia State has been terrible, and they're giving up 5.7 yards per carry, which is 122nd out of 130 in the nation. This team can't stop the run. I know Army's had issues dealing with a relatively new offensive line, and Hopkins has been struggling a little bit in terms of running the triple option. However, based on the fact that Georgia State can't stop the run, and based on the fact that this team was projected to win roughly 3 games all season long, and now they are 4-2, I think Georgia State's overachieving. And I think Army, after getting embarrassed on the road by Western Kentucky, I think they'll come out focused. I think Army should run the triple option. They should run for at least 300 yards. And I think that Army should be able to control the time possession and win this game by at least a touchdown. It's also worth mentioning that Georgia State does not have much experience when it comes to facing the triple option, as they have never faced Army before. They have never faced Navy before. And the last triple option game that they have played in was against Air Force 3 years ago, and they ended up losing that game by 38 points. I think the lack of experience in terms of facing the triple option will be a serious problem for Georgia State, as this team loves to score points. I'll give them props. Their offense has been pretty good, led by Ellington at quarterback, dual threat quarterback. They love to throw the ball. They can also use some dual threat mobility from their quarterback, but as a whole, I definitely think Army's defense is a little bit underrated as they're only giving up 20 points per game. And in terms of yards passing, they are only giving up 179 passing yards per game. I think Georgia State will struggle to get the ball. I think Army will continue to move the chains, just creating some third and shorts, maybe even going for it on 4th and 1 with the triple option. I think Georgia State's defense is terrible, and I think that Army should be able to dominate the time possession. They should have the ball for at least 35 minutes, and they should be able to eat up the clock with a ton of long drives. And the occasional play action pass with Hopkins could leave some people wide open. But mostly, I think Army will just run the triple option down their throats. And I think that money has poured in on Army accordingly, as Army should win this game by at least a touchdown. I would take it now because this game should close at -7, give or take, based on how the money has come in so far. So the play of the day for Wednesday, October 16th, will be on Army -6.5, which is available at FanDuel at -105. Now, in terms of hockey, I was very close to giving this out as a play of the day, but I decided not to do it. I actually like the Washington Capitals in regulation, or Washington Capitals in 60 minutes, beating the Maple Leafs today, and that line is available. Sorry, let me just find that really quickly. Game props. Sorry, I'm just looking for it really quick on DraftKings. It's the Capitals to win in regulation at +127 against the Maple Leafs. The main reason why I like this play is based on the goalie matchup as well as the spot here for the Capitals. Toronto is the better overall team. However, they did play yesterday at home against the Wild, ended up winning that game. But now they have to travel, play the second end of a back-to-back, travel to Washington, and they're going to be using their backup goalie in Michael Hutchinson, who has been terrible so far this season. And he ended up giving up 5 goals to the Canadians before losing in a shootout. He's just not a good goalie. I know that Toronto is a very solid offense, so the game could be somewhat high scoring. But with Hutchinson in net, I don't trust him at all. I think he's one of the worst backup goalies in the league based on track record. And the Capitals will be using Ilya Samsonov instead of Brayton Holtby. I know at first glance you'll say, well, that's a downgrade because Holtby has been fantastic. So why would you take the Capitals? The answer is that Holtby has been terrible so far this season, if you haven't been paying attention to his stats. Samsonov is actually 2-0 so far in games that he started the season. He did technically get credited with a loss in his last appearance against the Avalanche. However, Holtby actually started that game and gave up 3 goals on 3 shots. Yeah, Holtby had 0 saves, and he ended up being pulled immediately. So Samsonov might have gotten credited with the loss, but it definitely wasn't his fault as he entered the game with a 3-0 deficit. Samsonov, in my opinion, is the better goalie here. He has saved 49 of 51 shots for a save percentage of .961. I think he's very solid. Toronto on the second end of a back-to-back with a backup goalie in net, I definitely think is an issue, and it explains why the Capitals are currently -125 or higher favorites. So for that reason, I think the Capitals in regulation has a lot of value, and I will be taking the Capitals at +127 in regulation, which is available on DraftKings at +127. Now, in terms of some of the other NHL games to look at here, looking at the rest of the betting card really quickly, I don't have thoughts on the Edmonton game. I will be skipping that. I know the Flyers lost yesterday in the first end of a back-to-back, but they ended up using their backup goalie. And Carter Hart, I think, is a tremendous goalie who will be playing in this game, while Edmonton will be using their backup goalie. So I'm a little bit concerned in terms of that matchup. I will pass on that personally. But if you like the rest angle, it is worth mentioning that the Flyers are playing the second end of a back-to-back, so you can bet that accordingly. Now, in terms of the other plays here, I'm actually going to lean to the Sabres here. A small lean, definitely not as big of a lean as on the Capitals, but it's expected that John Gibson will be playing against Carter Hutton, and Buffalo is currently at +115. I can't go against Hutton at this point as he is undefeated this season. He's 4-0-0 with a 1.74 goals against with a 93.1 save percentage. He's been great. I know Gibson's been very solid too. I think this game could go to overtime. This game should be low scoring. There's a reason why there's heavy juice to the under on a 5.5 total, but I think the Sabres are just a much better team in terms of offense, and I think that Hutton, until he actually loses a game this season, I have to back him as he is still undefeated. So I would lean to the Sabres on that one at a plus price, as I think they are the superior team. Other than that, though, I'm actually going to give out another lean, small lean to the Blue Jackets here at plus 100. I know that Bishop is in net, and he has a pretty good track record in his career. He's going up against Joonas Korpisalo. I know that Korpisalo is relatively young, as he has been taking over for Bobrovsky ever since Bobrovsky fled to Florida. So far, he's been okay. He's got a 2-2 record with a 2.75 goals against. Meanwhile, Bishop is 1-3-1 with a 2.78 goals against. I know that Bishop has a better track record, but the Stars have been terrible so far this season. I know Columbus isn't great, but there's no way that Columbus should be a minus 110 favorite here, just based on how they performed so far this season. Dallas has looked completely flat. Sagan has been okay. Ben's been okay. Other than that, though, nobody's really producing offensively. And Columbus is at home. I think that Columbus has some value here at plus 100, so a small lean to Columbus there in terms of the game. Yeah, CR, if you want to take Dallas, I understand that. I think Dallas as a whole has the better overall roster, but I just haven't liked what I've seen from them so far this season. They haven't really shown me anything to work with, so I don't really think they should be favored in this spot here. I think if you want to look at both of them as minus 110, you can do that, but Columbus getting plus 100 at home, I don't really have many thoughts on that. Yeah, in terms of the Ducks, CR, I'm actually leaning to the Sabres on that. I mentioned that before. If you want to take the Ducks, you can. But Hutton, the goalie for the Sabres in this game, is actually undefeated so far this season with a 4-0-0 record. So until he actually loses, I'll ride with the Sabres. If you want to take the Ducks, you can. I think that game's a toss-up. I think that game could go to overtime if you want to look for a huge plus price. That game is going to be very low scoring. Should be 2-1, 3-2, something like that. But I think the Sabres have better offense. I think that Hutton is a very underrated goalie with an undefeated record. So I will lean to the Sabres in that one. But those are all just leans. My favorite lean being on the Capitals in regulation at plus 127 on DraftKings. But other than that, though, in terms of the play of the day, one more time, it will be on Army, minus 6.5, which is available at minus 105 on FanDuel. Other than that, though, quick reminder of our sponsor, PointsBet, all in sports in New Jersey, a couple of great deals for you, up to 2 risk-free bets up to $1,000. So you end up betting on any sports, you end up losing, you simply get your money back, which is a great promotion that more sportsbooks would use. Other than that, though, that's going to be this installment of Scott Selections here for Wednesday, October 16th. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.